Our next presenter is Dr. Pawlik Lucas. Do we have Dr. Lucas here? Oh. I don't have any bio on him.
Good morning.
So I take the
Yes.
podium, may I?
Yeah, you have to just do it a little lightly. That's the problem. Yeah.
Okay, let's see whether it works in both directions. This is digitalization, how it actually works. It doesn't, and that's the main problem, because we can't substitute everything we do naturally, biologically, to digital devices. Because so many things we do without knowing, we can't substitute it. But this should be solved. Yes, I know. Yes. Yeah, it's on purpose. Thank you very much. I demonstrate a problem. The first thing we do with any human being is we immobilize it. Like you are immobilized now at the moment. Sitting is the new smoking, and about 5 million per year did die from lack of physical activity. So when you sit here now for a long time and you don't get your coffee and you don't get your sugar, you slowly eat up your own brain like a sea cucumber, because where's the fat come from? And what is left over is all the mostly petty things you think about every day, because that's like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, and all the rest doesn't appear anymore because it's out of a sensory system. Like, we don't notice that we not move unless somebody just leaves the space and is not immobilized. And not only 5 million people per year die, but lack of movement is one of the 3 indicators for all chronic diseases. And we have about 41 million deaths by year through chronic diseases. And it's an indicator, like 1 in 3, whether you get one or whether you survive it. So, and all this we normally don't notice. Like, you did not notice that the slide does not go on, because now is something happening here. And this is basically what psilocybin and movement has in common. So both has been shown to increase neuroplasticity through introducing a hyperfunctional process in the brain of connecting the brain. And you see, for example, if I do a very simple movement, all the parts of my brain and the bodies, they reconnect to each other. And that decreases the default mode, which is the neurological self. And we are back into experience. And when we are back into experience, we have much more possibilities to solve our problems. And another effect, I tell you this is a secret, because as a scientist it's difficult to talk about this. Nobody talks about neurogenesis. That means the growth of new brain cells. So far, movement is the only study that could prove to increase actually brain cells. We know that from cancer patients. Because some did move and still died. So it's diary and it's your genetic makeup that's also defining. And then when you slice the brain, you see that some who died had an increase in brain cells, and those were the people who were running. The only problem why we don't talk about neurogenesis but talk about neuroplasticity is because nobody is willing to have his brain sliced up. So, maybe it works now. The presentation, can we move forward? I cannot do more. Now we go. Thank you very much. So, by the way, I'm a scientist who is a mix of a philosopher focusing on theory of science and how consciousness works, and anthropology and medicine. So I've published on this topic, if you want to know more, last year on how to battle the COVID crisis through movement, therapy, and psilocybin. And there you see that the two factors we have here is that the mental health costs are the biggest costs in the healthcare system. And it was estimated to be about 16 trillions by 2030. And that was before the COVID pandemic. And that was before inflation. And during the COVID pandemic, only 4.8% met the minimum requirement for not being endangered for your health through lack of movement. And especially in children, we have about 80% of all children have such a lack of movement that not only they have neurological problems, but they have even problems of how to stand because the muscles don't develop anymore because we're only here and our brain is disconnected from our body. So how there's two sides. The one side is, of course, the mental health costs, and it's connected with the chronic diseases, which are the largest killers. That are the two main opponents we have to face if we want to change our personal health and global health. And at that point, I want to give my thanks to the next of kin of the 10 million deaths, 2020, one of 6 deaths was a cancer death. Also through the COVID restrictions, through the lockdowns, and there was enormous pressure from the next of kin and the cancer associations to allow cancer patients, which are terminally ill, to at least, you must think, mustn't think, but you can think. If you vomit blood, if you shit blood, if you cannot sleep because your pain keeps you awake at night, and it's not you, it's your mother, it's your son, it's your daughter, what would you do that they had a week, a day, or a month where you could communicate, say goodbye, solve your life? So these are the people who made an enormous pressure on the government, and 1 week before a task force was established to legalize psilocybin as a treatment for depression within the next 2 years, because the FDA wants it and needs it. There was a change in law that cancer patients could join psilocybin trials. And of course, this was the entry point that all diseases, chronic diseases, all mental diseases could profit from psilocybin. And the best way to profit from psilocybin, yes. So you see the facts and the numbers. I've just give it time, because otherwise you just listen to the technology. We're always in competition with technology. So you see the rise on suicide. This is also connected because there are studies on how to prevent suicide through psilocybin. When people are endangered, we don't have the statistics because it's too horrible. Generally, we can say between 25 to 30% burden of disease was increased through the COVID pandemic, especially the major depressive disorder. 53 million additional cases popped up. So that might be a reason why the FDA wants to legalize psilocybin, apart from the social pressure. So, and these are all, by the way, studies which are in design on the current psilocybin research. Oops. So, may I have a water, please? Thank you. As the main gift and the main obstacle in the regular doses of psilocybin is the same, that there's a causal connection between mystical experiences which are relevant for the healing effects. And this causal connection is also connected with changes in time and space. So that's actually what heals us, is what we are afraid of. That's a problem we have to succumb. So the easiest way to introduce psilocybin is to combine microdoses with therapeutic activities, because the self-stabilization process of the body and the mind is made in a way that when you move, 90% of all your energy are naturally absorbed into the movement. So if you have an organized homodynamic in your body, then you can absorb more and more psilocybin without getting into danger of decreasing your default network mode, which is again the neurological seat of the self, and getting into the danger of getting a bad trip because your values, how you perceive things, how you relate to each other, they change so fast in this compression of time and space of the psilocybin experience. That is, of course, a danger, or you have to go through sometimes when the brain is reconnecting, and there are some connections that, like men are evil or women are evil, where you can't get over, then you're trapped in this small part of reflecting your emotions all the time, reflecting your thoughts all the time without being able to interact with your holistic self. And this reduces how healthy you can be, how well you can think, how creative you can be. And we have all these studies also in psilocybin that they improve these qualities. So the perfect way, and the first way I would recommend, is walking as a meditation to be combined with microdoses, because they are the best treatments and the best statistics there to overview what we are doing, because we are working for decades. For decades now, how to get people to move again, because it costs so much. And with the combination of walking and the stabilization of psilocybin, this could be a breakthrough in how we make our society move again. And to, like you said before, like you both said, we have to move, the young people. We have to move ourselves to move others. And just a quick, how many of you did 1 hour of exercise each day during the conference? Thank you, yes. And that's the minimum requirement to not be endangered. See, I explained all this about the default network mode already. And therefore, I would like to end, to give you the experience, a similar experience to psilocybin, if you can make the effort to stand up and move with me for 1 little minute, then you can experience how your network default mode decreases, how your neuroplasticity increases, and you switch from the sympathicus to the parasympathicus. You actually come from a state of constant stress to a state of regeneration, which deactivates and activates the brain in a similar manner like psilocybin. So if you would please, just for a very brief time, stand up. And the trick, you don't have to think anything, is to connect movement and breath. So you breathe in, and out. That's biological learning without thinking. One more time. Expand and feel your fingertips. Yes. And that's the big nervous system hubs. Fingertips, your tongue, and your feet, which are the basis. It kills your spine if your feet don't move. 7,700 steps every day. In breath. So, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, that was great. How many of you took your mushrooms this morning?